Hello, hello, hello. This is You Can't Make This Shit Up. We are here at the Oxford Sports Pub and Secret Society. That's Joel, the conservative. I'm David, the liberal. We are your hosts. And it's another day, Joel.
You know, I'm over here biting my tongue because we started our subject before.
Let's jump in. Let's go. Let's jump in.
So David and I, you know, before we get on the air, we always want to have a discussion or a little bit. But
right.
Today, it was like John had to stop us because he's like,
hey, ready to get into
you are not going to get this thing going. So
right.
Marijuana is going to be in our topic. So
yes, and to lead our topic is a long jumper. Her name is Tara. Let me get this correct. I don't want to butcher her name.
Davis-Woodhall.
Tara, T-A-R-A, Tara Woodhall. Davis-Woodhall.
Yeah, Davis-Woodhall.
Okay, there we go. I butchered it anyhow.
So,
Tara.
Yeah, Davis. I can get the last name. So you should have said Ms. Davis.
Yeah, I should have gotten that correct. Well,
Woodhall. That's a hard one.
Woodhall. It kind of flows.
Yeah. Well, if she had taken and ground up some wood and put it in that wacky tobacco, she'd be okay right now.
It would lower the THC levels.
The THC stays
right.
THC stays in your system for at least 30 days.
About 30 days. And
so that's why we can't test for it as a DUI type thing. But
right.
If you have drugs in your system, you have drugs in your system. So, David, this long jumper has lost a month.
She was
suspended for a month
from competition for a month.
But the biggest thing is they stripped her into her national title. So her national title was just taken away because of THC.
Right. She had a reduced suspension ban for about 30 days. The incident occurred in February, and she was banned in February. She's now back in competition. However, she did test positive. The U.S. Doping Agency did test per their regulations, and they found that there was a significant level of THC in her system causing the ban.
Oh, you know, she was in pain. She probably went to one of these wonderful states that disregard the federal law that says THC or marijuana is a banned substance. So if it's a banned substance,
right.
And the president of the United States runs the FDA, and the FDA won't take it off that list, what's going on?
Right.
This is where I want somebody to tell me.
Despite the fact that there are several municipalities and localities that have decriminalized, THC or marijuana, despite that, the U.S. Doping Agency says no, that's not our rule. And although THC is not one of those performance enhancing drugs, it's still one of the drugs that's banned by the U.S. Doping Agency. And I'm just like, okay, if you would have asked me about this, again, 10, 20 years ago when I was much younger, I would have my hair on fire if I had hair. It's like, oh, this is outrageous. It's only marijuana.
Only marijuana.
However,
only marijuana. Listen, this is where I told everybody. I said, Donald Trump messed up when he got in office, and he didn't go bust into those freaking states that have legalized marijuana. Go in there, mess with the state, because it's on the federal banned substances, right?
Right.
So go in there, bust them, break it all up, and then take the damn thing off the the list.
Sure.
Because that's a Donald Trump kind of thing. Like go in there, punch them, and then come back and say, you know what? If you'd waited till we made the law legal, so then
that would be something Trump would do.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, I go to this. It's
Right.
against the law.
Right.
We all have so many people, and I get it. Everybody wants it off the banned substance list. They want to enjoy it.
Correct.
So the senior citizens that are going on to our tax dollars, retiring right now, are the ones that were in the 60s smoking it with LBJ and Nixon. So, of course, they want to get it for free now. I mean, come on. It's a freebie now. Let's get it off the substance abuse.
Well, there's a medicinal use of it.
Is there?
Right.
Is it really?
I'm not too sure about the law here in Florida, because I see the dispensaries, and I know there was a ballot initiative. Is it legal? Is it not? Is it medicinal legal?
Well, it's medicinal legal, and because of DeSantis coming in and saying, you can smoke it.
Really?
Yeah, you can smoke it. So that was off. It was not on the table until DeSantis came in and said that. And then Morgan had him down to say, "Hey, come on, this guy's good." And so Morgan, that was like, I was watching that going,
right.
What the hell is that? Morgan, John Morgan standing next to
Ron
DeSantis right after he got elected. It's like, okay.
I'm
sure, the guy that Joe Biden was in his house, probably.
I'm sure John and other personal injury attorneys are standing next to DeSantis after recent legislation, tort reform legislation, but that's a different story.
That's a different story. You talk about this marijuana. Why can't it be legal?
Yeah, and again, maybe 20 years back or maybe 30 years back, I would have been like, yeah, I'm all for this. And now I'm like, first of all, it stinks. I'm sorry. It's nasty. I'm just like, I can't stand the smell now. Maybe because I'm older or whatever.
No, I don't.
But it stinks. And then also,
it's like driving down the highway and you hit a skunk.
Yeah.
You didn't hit the skunk, but everybody who comes after you has to smell that shit.
Right. And then I get kind of concerned if I get pulled over or something like that. And because I'd like to drive with my windows down, I got this.
I never borrow. I never borrow somebody's car. Never borrow somebody's car.
Not nowadays.
The only person I trust. Listen, David, when you get out of town and I'm using your vehicle, you can be sure that it's not going to be smoking no dope in it.
Like, nowadays, you're just so fearful of many things. But and I bring this up because in this particular topic about marijuana use, last Saturday, we were at Lake Eola for Earth Day.
Yes.
And I was walking from my car, which was quite a distance from the park. And I took a shortcut through the 310 building to get to the park. And I was intercepted by the security guard. He thought something was, a concern because I was walking pretty fast or briskly. And I typically do if I get to one point and another and people were waiting for me. And I say, oh no, everything's okay, whatever. I'm just cutting through the building to get to the park. He say, okay. And for some reason we get into a conversation about a whole host of issues, particularly marijuana use and how in his eyes being in security, and he was probably in his early 40s, late 30s, and just seeing the progression of people who started marijuana,
David, I'm just laughing because
into meth, and then
you all heard that, right?
And I'm like, that was the first real world experience.
You all heard that, right? He was cutting through a building, and ended up in a full conversation about issues. You can't make this shit up.
A full blown conversation about a lot of issues, confronting Central Florida, and particularly drug use. And he said, don't be fooled. There is a huge issue of substance abuse here in Florida, particularly meth and fentanyl.
Listen, meth, fentanyl. When I'm in Seminole County, that's one thing that you will never, ever not hear about here. because it's always addressed. It's a big concern of our sheriff. He's worked with the first lady on this issue.
Mhm.
They got to clean it up. I mean, there's just, for me, fentanyl and sex trafficking, two biggest things that we need to be addressing here in Florida.
Oh boy.
But instead,
wow, and those are really huge issues, and we could talk about the sex trafficking.
no,
There-
that's
there-
that's a different subject. But
right.
I'm saying it. Drugs. I'm of the belief, and everybody says it's been disproved. I've never seen the science.
Mhm.
I've never seen the science that says it works for medicinal purposes.
Mhm.
It increases. If you have cancer, you can smoke it. You know why? Because it makes you eat. And people that have cancer die most often from starvation. They give up and they stop eating.
Sure.
So I can see using it for that.
Right.
But everybody knows it makes you hungry. But what's the purpose of it? Oh, it makes me feel better. Now I have the joint discomfort. It's a miracle drug because it helps everything. If you ask a person
Okay.
who's in their 60s and 70s,
Okay.
because it heals everything.
Mhm.
It heals war. It heals.
It's the end all to all of our suffering.
If we just take it off the substance abuse, it's substance list, we'd be
I mean,
golden.
I'm far removed from college and my youth. And I remember, yeah, I smoked during in college. Yeah, I did.
Good for you.
And it was great. However, after a while, it's like, okay, I did that. It was fun. It was cool. I was cool. Okay, it's time to grow up. It took another 20 years for that to happen. But yeah, it was time to grow up. And I couldn't see myself, spending, a lot of what little money I had as a student on, marijuana and cigarettes. And I was about to say alcohol. That's a different story.
Listen, alcohol can be
That's
abused.
worse.
Listen,
Yeah, that's worse.
alcohol can be abused, but a nice nightcap or something, don't overdo it. I mean,
Yeah.
if I start to slur, I've gone way too far. But I don't want to feel like that though.
Yeah, coming from the guy who reintroduced me to Scotch, real good Scotch.
Yes, I mean, you didn't know that there was good Scotch out there.
Man.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, I have second thoughts about the legalization of marijuana and just our conversations and just this mind-blowing conversation I had with this gentleman Saturday about the increase, the quiet, nearly invisible increase of the meth and fentanyl use.
yeah, but it's being put in. It's being put in to the marijuana too.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, now we have people that want this legal, and I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said, look, this is a country where freedom needs to be, everybody needs to be free, right? So I have no problem with them taking it off. I just worry that it endangers me with people on the road, and I can't test it. If I test it, I got 30 days.
Right.
So this lady, the only thing is stripping her of a title for a drug that isn't a performance enhancing drug, but it still was banned. Good for you that you enforced your rule.
Right.
But
those are the
I
rules.
do not believe you ever strip a title from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though Lance Armstrong never won the Tour de France, he's never won it.
Okay.
They've stripped him of all of his wins.
Right.
He's always in my life, until I'm dead, he's always the guy who won multiple.
Sure. Right.
So stripping the title doesn't mean anything to me. That's like having this fake president, I hear about all the time when I go to the GOP.
Sure.
And then when I had to hear about the fake president because he didn't get enough votes from the Democrats.
Exactly.
So I'm just trying to, like, you can't make this shit up. You guys did it for 4 years. Now we're doing it for 4 years. Yeah. When are we going to ever get along and say, hey, that guy actually got elected.
Yeah, I don't think if on the extreme ends of both parties, I don't know if we'll ever get to that point. It's the folks in the middle or towards the middle that maybe see
But they
some,
don't pay attention.
and that's our job to fix.
Right. I mean, they're complacent because, listen, they don't realize how much power they have.
Mhm.
They don't realize that term limits is a vote. That's what voting is.
Exactly.
We shouldn't have to force, everybody wants term limits. Everybody wants term limits because they think that's the problem.
Mhm.
They want new blood in there. Well,
Vote.
I tell everybody, go ahead, vote for the next guy.
Mhm.
If you put in a different Republican, you put in a different Democrat, it won't be any different because the staff is going to stay the same. The staff is always going to stay the same. The people behind the scenes are always they're just going to move offices.
Mhm.
Have you not thought, like, why does this guy, still stay in Washington? He's been a chief of staff for this congressman. He's then, this next congressman, because his congressman loses after 2 years. He now needs to find another job. He finds his next job. That one stays for 6 years or 3 terms. And then he goes and says he's not going to run again. So you put out your resume and you start looking around. You have 435 opportunities for a new job.
But however, experience does matter,
It does.
and you create relationships, and relationships do matter. And I
think
I just don't,
seniority
right.
is
I just
important.
don't like the whole idea of making a career out of this, or
No.
electing a very young congressperson and saying, "Hey, that person could be in office for the next, 50 years," or a situation with Senator Feinstein.
Well, look at Joe Biden, and just
Yeah, 40 years in
he was one of the
in
youngest
Congress. Yeah.
youngest senators. If he might still be considered the youngest senator, but he was so young, and you look at his picture, and you basically watched him grow old.
Mhm. Yeah.
And now he wants to be president again, and he'll be in his 80s.
Yeah.
I'm like, have you done anything outside of
Government.
No.
Right. But that's up to the American people to decide.
But I have no problem with them deciding. I just wish they would stop arguing.
So, on the legalization of marijuana across America, yay or nay?
I'm still a nay because of safety.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm for it. Just somehow they got to put safety in there.
Okay.
Like with DUIs, they're constantly trying to make sure that they can do a breathalyzer. They have different techniques now, and I feel better about that.
Right.
I still know there's a bunch of people driving.
Sure.
I'll change my vote. Because I haven't actually gotten how the voting booths legalize it, because I just freedom.
Man, that would be a great point to. I mean, if we had Bob Marley's, legalize it, or is it? I can't remember. No, Toots and the Maytals. I can't remember, but that would be a great. Drop that song right now. But
Yeah.
I'm with legalizing it with some caution, regulate it, tax the shit out of it. America's poor. We need as much money as we can.
Listen, I you know my opinion of sin taxes.
Right.
I hate sin taxes.
I love them.
I think sin taxes are the attack on the poor, and they continue to attack the poor, but the Democrats keep adding these things to it. So why do we want to legalize marijuana? Because we want the tax revenue. That's what they're going to tell you. That's the case. And where are you going to get that money from? Poor people.
It's kind of messed up.
So it is, because the rich people aren't buying it. They're the ones selling it. Thank you very much for your time. David would like to make sure that you like our social media, visit our social media, visit j-washington.com, find us, watch our show. If you can't find it anywhere else, go to our website. You'll always find it there.
Share, hit that notification button. We're out.